Welcome along to the AtTheRaces.com web preview of the Weatherbys Champion Bumper, the closing race on day 2 of the festival, a race that many people love to talk about. Who knows something about the bumper? Well, often the betting is a good place to start when assessing these horses. And Golan Tiller is the favourite at 7-1. Empiricals at 8s. Levant d'Anton is at 9s. Union Jews at 10s. It's 16-1 bar those. Alongside me here in the At The Races studios, we have Andy Gibson, the pro punter and the racing analyst. And Andy, Golan Tiller is favourite for the bumper on the back of this impressive win at Cork back in January.
Yeah, and there's no doubt he was impressive this day, and the perennial problem that we have with the bumper, or the perennial dilemma, should I say, is that you have several horses who've won extremely easily. The market is formed more, there's a higher percentage of gossip and rumour attached to the market than any other race at the festival, which is not a reason to get involved financially in anything. But this horse was as impressive as any horse. The downside of the race would be, not a lot to come out of it, and also that it was at Cork. And, we have very limited evidence to go on, but there's one or two other horses perhaps run, for example, Levant d'Anton has won at Leopardstown. That's the difference between Doncaster and Cheltenham, perhaps, or something like that. We have limited evidence to go on. We need to use the evidence we have got.
Well, let's hear from one man who's had a tremendous record in the bumper in recent years, the likes of Cousin Vinny and Florida Pearl, and missed that, have all won the bumper for the Irish champion trainer, Willie Mullins.
And the bumper, obviously, is a race. You've won that several times, I think we can safely say, Willie. 3 good chances this year: Clondalk Court, Union Jews, Sizing Tennessee, Briar Hill you've spoken about as well. Is it a good crop of bumper horses this time, do you think?
I think they're, yeah. I mean, Sizing Tennessee didn't look good, but when Patrick came in after the race, he said that the ground was hugely testing that day, and he just didn't send him on about his business as early as he thought he could have when he came in. But we think he's good all year. He's been showing me plenty at home. Clondalk Court won well. I doubt I'm going to get another run into him. I thought we would, but he's doing nice things at home. Union Jews was very impressive in what looked a very hot race in Navan, and we know he won in Killarney as well earlier on in the season, so we know he'll handle that ground. I think it's a nice team, yeah.
And Patrick, obviously, he's ridden them all to win. He seems particularly fond of Clondalk Court, though. That was an impressive performance from him at Punchestown.
I think so. I'd love to have got another run into the horse, and things didn't work out. But he's a fine big horse, big, huge stride. I think he'd be happy enough to ride anything. But I think he's, at the moment, favouring him in here.
Well, since that was recorded, we've had Clondalk Court has come out for Willie Mullins, but he still does have a couple of decent challenges here, Andy. Champagne Fever, a winner last year for him. Is he still the man to follow in the bumper?
Well, he's won the race 7 out of the last 16, so absolutely. I think it's the place that you would need to start every single time. As you say, Clondalk Court is no longer a runner, but he has Union Jews, who's a perfectly viable contender in this. Won impressively last time, and again, very like the favourite Golan Tiller, has won impressively. We don't know what the form amounts to. We don't know how it compares to the other runners. We're simply guessing. But one of the pieces of evidence is definitely that Willie Mullins has won this race 7 out of the last 16 times, and that's probably quite important.
Yeah, Union Jews won last time out in a Grade 2 contest as well. He wasn't favourite. The favourite was Champagne James, who finishes second here for the Ted Walsh team. It was only a small field, and the fact that Union Jews wasn't favourite, I mean, often the Mullins horses are favourite for the bumpers, would the fact he wasn't favourite surprise you at all?
Well, at the time, I would confess that I wouldn't have paid much attention to the race at the time. And in terms of the form, the only horse that's come out of this race and run since is Hilltop Tommy, I think, who was 3rd here, and then he's finished well beaten in his only subsequent outing. So at the moment, there's nothing that has substantiated the form in any way. But he looked perfectly strong there in what was possibly a weak race, and how we compare him to some of the others, I'm not sure. It's very, very difficult.
And I guess he had won his point-to-point as well on decent ground, which could be a plus for him. Well, let's consider another Irish challenger trained by Liz Doyle. This is Levant de Anton. He was a winner at Leopardstown in a field that probably has a little bit more strength and depth.
Definitely, and I was there this day, and all day long this was the only horse that people seemed to be talking about. So you know, he was clearly a massively hyped horse. He's won impressively here. Again, you know, like looking back to Gollantilla, he's won here at Leopardstown, and Gollantilla only won at Cork, and yet Gollantilla's about 6 to 1. This horse is about 9 to 1. I understand that this horse has also won 3 schooling bumpers on a mixture of grounds. So you've got heavy ground form here, but he has won on a mixture of grounds. I believe, and I understand that they would prefer slightly better than heavy ground for this horse. And with the limited evidence available, I would say that his chances are as strong as any.
And from what Liz Doyle's been talking about, he's worked as well as Cheltenham, who she had in the early stages before he won the bumper. Yeah,
which obviously is a massive plus. The fact that it was Leopardstown is a massive plus. The fact that he's won 3 schooling bumpers as well, apparently impressively, but you know, I think you'd have needed to have been there and understood the substance of those schooling bumpers. You know, I mean, I'm sure that half of them are not off and half of them are, you know, you just wouldn't have a clue. But the fact that he's unbeaten in his one race, he's won 3 schooling bumpers, he probably will act on the good to soft ground, and he's certainly a viable contender for the race.
Empiricals there as well for Jeremy Scott. He's not been seen since winning very early in the season, but that race has worked out well at Huntingdon.
He was unbelievably impressive on the day, wasn't he? But an incredibly buzzy horse. And I heard an interview on At the Races with Nick Schofield saying that he'd gone off for a racecourse gallop just to keep the lid on him. So I guess there's a couple of clues there that you would probably not want to be backing him until you've seen him go down to the start, I would suspect. You know, he's one to keep an eye on, I think, on the day.
So a difficult race to maybe assess at this stage, Andy, until we know the exact lineup and we hear more about these horses, how they've travelled. But at this stage, what would be the value bet for the bumper?
Definitely, Levant de Anton would be my bet in the race. It would be to small stakes. It's 9 to 1. Tough race to work out, but I would fully expect him to run a really solid race.